So what actually happens when you bring a fake doctor's note to the deadliest mountain on Earth?
Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking something literally life or death. We're looking at the systemic failures on Mount Everest. We're going to see what happens when the very systems meant to keep climbers alive just completely collapse under the weight of financial loopholes and budget operators. It is a wild ride.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's the roadmap. We're hitting the budget boom, the financial lies, permit flaws, compromised teams, the deadly biology of altitude, and finally, the very real Sherpa cost. Let's go. Section 1, the budget expedition boom and ignoring the safety math. We really have to ask ourselves, how do financial shortcuts totally rewire the Everest ecosystem? Well, it starts with the massive explosion of budget operators undercutting the established companies. To put this into perspective, let's look at the logistics. Standard expeditions, they give you high oversight, plenty of oxygen, and dedicated Sherpas. But these newer budget expeditions, they strip things down to the absolute minimum. We're talking pooled resources, way less oxygen, and basically zero oversight once you leave base camp. You pay less, sure, but you definitely get less. And above 26,000 feet, those cut rate prices mean you are climbing with absolutely no safety net. And this is exactly where the safety math gets fatally ignored for profit. Take this instance. A budget operator added an unexpected 8th climber, Lauren, onto a 7-person manifest. Why? Simply because she wired them extra cash. Now, the lead Sherpa, Lakpa, who has summited Everest 9 times, by the way, flagged this immediately. He knew the oxygen, tents, and Sherpa pairings were strictly calculated for 7 people. Adding an 8th is a massive, dangerous deficit. But he was basically told to just figure it out. Lauren hadn't even acclimatized above 23,000 feet, but she pushed for the summit anyway, and tragically froze to death at 27,800 feet. All right, Section 2, forged papers and financial lies, bypassing biology. You might be wondering, how do you even fake your way onto a mountain like Everest? Well, let's look at the paperwork. The financial motivations here are just mind-blowing. People are literally trying to bypass biology through sheer fraud. For instance, Andrea, a hedge fund manager, faked a knee injury just to snag a helicopter ride to Camp 2, completely skipping crucial acclimatization. Then there's Paige, a petroleum exec who literally paid off a cardiologist in Houston to forge a medical clearance, hiding a severe heart condition and a daily cocktail of cardiac meds. And Vanessa, a former fitness influencer who staged multiple fake illnesses just to cash in on overlapping insurance payouts. The paperwork might look perfect, but the mountain doesn't care about paperwork. Section 3, flaws in permit systems and the money grab myth. What's absolutely wild here is how these checkpoints fail, right? Let's talk about the systemic enablers. Let's trace the steps of a climber named Stacy. She actually missed the Everest permit deadline, so she bought a discount permit for a neighboring peak called Lhotse. But here's the catch. She never even intended to climb it. She spent weeks doing reconnaissance, and then right at 24,500 feet, she deliberately unclipped from the Lhotse line and just started climbing the Everest route illegally. Her Sherpa, Pemba, explicitly warned her. No cached oxygen, no support on that route. She completely ignored the math. Her response to Pemba? She actually told him the permit system is a money grab. She went on alone, ran out of oxygen, tumbled down the face, and died. It's an incredibly tragic irony, because the very permit system she dismissed as a scam was literally built to prevent the exact fatal outcome that her actions triggered. Moving on to Section 4, compromising legitimate climbing teams and the fatal domino effect. So the crucial point is, these rogue choices don't just affect the individual, they actively endanger everyone else on the mountain. 26,000 feet, you're in the death zone. And this is exactly where a budget climber named Nicola drifted away from her unsupported group and literally took an oxygen bottle clearly labeled for another expedition's survival descent. So how does this domino effect actually play out? Well, a rogue climber from a budget team basically slots themselves into a faster, well-funded team's rope line. When a lead Sherpa caught Nicola doing exactly this and asked her to step off, she had the audacity to threaten to report him for harassment. She then used an authorized shelter and stole pre-staged oxygen. Because of this, legitimate teams lose their vital safety reserves. When budget climbers like Lauren and Nicola just insert themselves where they don't belong, they squeeze the acclimatization windows and steal lifelines from clients who played by the rules. The entire mountain's safety math is completely compromised. Section 5, the deadly biology of altitude and what happens when the brain fails. Because at the end of the day, you absolutely cannot buy your way past biology. The physical reality of extreme altitude is absolutely brutal. First, severe hypoxia hits. We saw this when Paige collapsed at 28,100 feet because she was hiding her heart condition and secretly carrying a pharmacy of beta blockers and nitroglycerin. Next, you lose coordination, fumbling gear, putting ascenders on backward. Then comes HAC, or high-altitude cerebral edema. This is where total delirium sets in. Remember Andrea, who took the fake helicopter ride? She developed HAC and violently fought off her rescuing Sherpa because her dying brain thought he was attacking her. Finally, there's the loss of extreme cold awareness. Lauren was found freezing to death with her hands totally bare because a hypoxic brain just stops recognizing the danger of the cold. Section 6. The true cost to Sherpas. The collateral damage. Honestly, this is probably the most important part of this explainer. Because who really absorbs the consequences of these structural failures? The local guides.
There is such a stark, heartbreaking contrast here. On one hand, you have the climber's errors, entitlement, forged papers, fatal misjudgments. But on the other hand, look at the Sherpa's reality. Pemba, who did everything right to try and stop Stacy's illegal climb, was interrogated by authorities for 2 whole days. Furba, a 29-year-old Sherpa who accurately flagged Paige's medical red flags, was threatened with total career ruin by her. And then there's Ang Churing, who suffered a horrific compound leg fracture while rushing to rescue Vanessa during her completely staged fake emergency.
When asked what he was up to after his massive injury, Ang Churing said he was learning to walk on flat ground the way he used to walk on ice. Let that sink in. 14 years of high-altitude rescue work, permanently ended by an influencer who faked an emergency for an insurance payout. His career and half of his family's entire income gone in an instant. 6 climbers, 6 lies. We've just seen how budget operators completely ignore the safety math, how permit systems fail to catch forged documents, and how the pursuit of profit totally overrides accountability. But the biggest takeaway from this explainer is the human toll. If the systems and the operators fail, who really pays the highest price on Everest? I'm going to leave you to think about that. Keep learning, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.